Slay the night with best dressed Halloween costumes. From a little scary to way trendy to coordinated looks with your squad, Walmart's got you covered. Find the costumes you love right here at Walmart.
Hey, it's Austin James. If you're like me, trying to live your best life while living with diabetes, you can relate to worrying if you're doing a good job managing your diabetes. I use the Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor to get real-time glucose readings and see the impact of every meal and activity to make better decisions. The Freestyle Libre 3 Plus sensor can help me live life with diabetes on my own terms, and it gives me more time for the things I love, like being a dad and a musician. Now this is progress. Learn more at freestylelibre.us.
For prescription only. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
Did you know Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company? They're one of America's largest financial services companies. Like how I'm more than just quarterback Peyton Manning, I'm also meditating Manning. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, member FINRA, Columbus, Ohio.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least that was the plan. Except now the Dastardly Desk Clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want your connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
Hey, everybody. It's Weird Islanders, the podcast, back once again, this time for season 4. My name is Dan. That is Mike. Mike, can you believe it that we're in season 4 of this very strange spin-off show that we have created for ourselves?
No, it's I can't believe it. I think that when we did our first episode, the feedback was almost 100% positive, and all of a sudden I was like, oh God, what did we just step ourselves into? And now we get to break a new glass ceiling for this show here, and I'm really excited to do it. It's a team that a season I love to talk about quite a bit on Weird Islanders and Islanders Anxiety. It's a season that I still have trouble wrapping my head around as a fan, and we actually get a member from that team to talk about it and talk about some crazy stuff that happened towards the end of it.
Yes. This is a season that comes up a lot, and we're going to talk a lot about a game that comes up a lot. And we do have our first ever actual Islander with us. Our guest tonight had a 10-year NHL career, including 5 games with the Islanders at a very important and memorable time, another 7 seasons in Europe and 8 in the KHL, won accolades and championships all across the world, and is the highest scoring player ever to come out of the great state of New Hampshire. He is Officer Deron Quint. Deron, how are you this evening?
I'm great, guys. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. We really appreciate you coming on with us. And first thing we have to address is the title I just called you. You are Officer Deron Quint. You are a member of the Phoenix Police Department right now. And we're going to start right there. What made you choose law enforcement as your post-hockey career?
You know, it's something I always wanted to do. I had my hockey career took priority 1, but, I knew once it was over, hopefully my body was going to be in good enough shape where I could do this. I've always wanted to help people, and it's always been exciting to me, the things that I heard officers do. We always had a security guy with us when I was in the NHL, and they were always former PD, so they always had great stories. And I always wanted to do it, and I was fortunate enough to the body to hold on and last. And I took a year off after I retired and jumped right into it, and it's been great. I'm out here in Phoenix PD, and it's been everything I thought it would be.
We have to, this is probably a dumb question, but it needs to be asked. You obviously played for the Coyotes for a long time, so we're going to get to that in a bit, but have you ever been recognized on the job as former Coyote Deron Quint?
A few times. I try and keep a low profile. Fortunately, I wasn't one of the big stars here, so it makes it a little easier to blend in. But every once in a while, I'll see a card or somebody will have a picture or remember. So
that's really funny. I imagine it also helps like diffuse some fairly tense situations every once in a while. Like, hey, wait a minute, I know you. You were on the Coyotes.
Yeah, exactly.
We will talk more about the Coyotes and that plight and that part of your career, but this is a show about the New York Islanders and a particular part of the Islanders' history. And I guess we got to start at the beginning. You come over to the Islanders at the very end of a season where it looked like they had no chance of making the playoffs. How did that even come to be? Because you were playing in Europe. The Islanders were decimated along the blue line. So Garth Snow, did he just reach out to you? How did you kind of learn about the Islanders' interest and why at the very end of a season for a team that you had no connection with, did it kind of jump to you and you say, all right, I'll go do it?
Yeah. So again, you talk about weird situations. Their original choice was Todd Simpson.
Yes.
They signed him. They then found out Simmer was suspended due to his shenanigans in the German league. So he was suspended, and then he sent me an email, and I responded, and I think I'd been home maybe 2.5 weeks, so I was like, hey, I'll give you everything I got. I don't know what it's going to be, but I've been on holidays for 2.5 weeks, but anytime an opportunity comes up like that, I mean, it wouldn't have mattered. They could have paid me $1 and I would have been there. I mean, you can't turn down those type of opportunities. Right. Fortunately, I knew a lot of guys on the team already, guys I grew up with playing with, or guys I played with USA Hockey with. So it made it easy to do that. And I'm telling you, it was a blast. It was only 5 games, but it was just an unbelievable experience, just going through that and just, what we ended up doing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't only just 5 games. Those are 5 of the most memorable games. I was a senior in high school, or a junior in high school at the time. And I remember that those 5 games, the loss to Ottawa, and then the 4 in a row, perhaps better than anything I can remember in parts of my life that I should remember, because that was one of the most emotional times for Islander fans. So did you know what the kind of calculus was for the Islanders to make the playoffs? Like, you come in, it looked like there was no chance, like when you signed on. And also, we should also note, for anyone who wasn't watching the team at the time, you were ineligible to play in the playoffs because of the rules. And I'm so happy that you knew about the Todd Simpson thing, because that's one of the funniest, the funniest notes about this entire story. That team, it was such a crazy run, and all the headlines, if tongue-in-cheek headlines, go to the Wade Dublowitz story and just the run that they went on. But your story kind of underneath it adds even another layer, that Garth Snow goes overseas, brings you in because they needed help on the blue line, and originally wanted Todd Simpson, but as you said, his suspension is upheld. I can imagine that for any other team, he would have been allowed to play, but the Islanders usually get the bad rub of the luck.
Absolutely. How that goes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But then you come in, did you know like what the stakes were for the team and like the kind of like what they needed to do to get into the playoffs, even though you wouldn't be able to get in?
Yeah, right when I got there, they were talking about how you could tell right away the locker room was excited, ready to go. They knew they had a mission. It was to make the playoffs. They knew it was going to be tough, but the attitude in that locker room it was great. It was very upbeat. And then I think the Ottawa game, I think that was the first time I'd skate. I might have skated the day before, but the first time in like 3 weeks. And Mike Comrie made a fool out of me on one-on-one, and he ended up scoring.
Now Hunter gets it back, shoots Gerber, the save. And now the Islanders have their best momentum of the game. But Comrie hustles up left wing, makes a move on Quint, gets in, shoots, he scores! What a play by Comrie, who beats Deron Quint and the save.
And I just remember thinking, oh, what have I gotten myself into? After that game, we started rolling. And nothing was going to stop us. And it was, it was just unbelievable to be a part of, and just seeing those guys come together. Even the short time I was there, you could feel it when you got in the room that, they were on a mission, and they did what they they wanted to do.
Yeah, that was a really interesting roster. You are the fourth member of that team that we have done episodes on. We've already done Wade Dublowitz. We did Ryan Smith. We have a Marc-Andre Bergeron episode coming up. And like Mike said, this is for especially post-Dynasty fans. This was one of, if not the most exciting run they had. There was the 2002 season that they made the playoffs, the 93 run to the conference finals, and I guess the 87 Easter Epic. And that was about it. And so this was super exciting. Railing off those 4 wins in a row, and it all culminates on April 8th, 2007 at the Meadowlands, a Islanders-Devils game.
Rafalski dumps to the right of Dublowitz, and it's taken by Deron Quint. The interesting story, playing in his 5th game for the Islanders, he got the phone call after wrapping up the season in Germany. Yashin plays it. The Islander captain, one-timer by Quint. That's blocked in front. And here comes Sergei Brylin over the line. He's got Madden with him. A drop for Pandolfo. They can't hook up. Now the Islanders with numbers if they hurry the other way. Viktor Kozlov with a shot that goes high and wide of goal.
So you were in this game. This is the infamous Wade Dublowitz poke check game. What are your memories of that game going in? Like the stakes. It's so funny because Mike talks about the calculus, and that's pretty much what it was. If you go back and watch the YouTube videos, like TSN, it's like A Beautiful Mind. Like they've got all this chalkboard stuff up. Like, well, if the Islanders win here, the Leafs need these 4 teams to lose or whatever. Were you conscious of all of that stuff going into this game beforehand?
Oh yeah, we knew. I mean, everybody knew the stakes. We were very fortunate. Marty took the night off.
Yes.
So, that always helps. And, the guys played a great game. Everybody gave it everything they had. They knew what was on the line. And, that's all you can ask for in those situations. And everybody just, everybody was upbeat. You go into the game thinking you're going to win. I mean, that's just the mindset you have to have. And we knew a lot of things had to fall into place that were out of our control. But all we were going to do is control what we could, and that was getting the big win. And like Duber, just, I mean, those games, he was just unbelievable in goal. I mean, it was just, he was lights out. And when you have a goalie playing like that, you feel like you can win every night. And that really, with him back there doing what he did, that just really boosted everybody else.
Yeah.
Am I wrong in saying that you got power play time too? Were you, just to show like how desperate the Islanders were, just needing those 4 wins in a row, then the Maple Leafs and Canadians basically to alternate wins on the side to get in is crazy. But then they were so decimated that like I said, we had to go into Europe to bring you over. And then you're running a power play unit as well. Like, did you know that this was going to happen? Like you were going to be handed the keys to like this, the second power play unit. And once again, extremely high stakes games.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, I went in there just, whatever they needed, I was going to do. I mean, whether it was play 2 minutes a game, 8 minutes a game, 12 minutes, it didn't matter. I was there to help the guys out. I've always been a big team guy, and that's what I did my whole career is whatever you need, I'm going to do. So if it, like I said, if it was 2 minutes and cheering everybody on, that's what I was going to do, and I was going to do it the best I could. So any situation, I was a power play guy most of my career, so. There was pressure to do well, of course, because you have to take pride in yourself and you don't want to let the other guys down. And, fortunately it worked out for everybody, and it was a great ride.
We're going to talk a little bit later about some of your offensive exploits, both in the NHL and overseas. So I can't wait to get to that stuff. Like we've been talking about, this was like a 5-game thing basically. And so as the Islanders make the playoffs, you're a huge part of this run and this team and clinching that playoff spot that seemed at one point to be so completely, out of their grasp that they did this, but then you couldn't play in the playoffs. Were you around the team while they were playing in Buffalo? I mean, it was only a 5-game series, but were you still around the team? And
they let me stay in practice and, cause Cy needed to work out and keep skating. So, I got to stick with those guys and stick around and be part of it. That was great of them. And I was appreciative. They said, they asked if I wanted to stay. And of course I wasn't going to say no, because just to be around those guys as long as I could enjoy every minute of it. So I stuck around and practiced and got to watch all the games, and a lot of fun.
Very cool. That brings up another must ask question. That meant that you must have lived in the Marriott for a good 2.5, 3 weeks while this was all going on. The infamous Nassau Coliseum parking lot Marriott that so many players have stayed in. So now you had stayed there as a visiting player, obviously many times, but now you're staying there as an Islander. What was that like inside that pretty infamous hotel complex that so many players have come through over the years?
Yeah, I always thought it was a Ritz-Carlton. I didn't know it was a Marriott. Now, thank you for correcting that. But it was a little rundown. You know, it got a little. I don't think the interior of it had been touched in probably 20, 25 years.
Right.
Still hasn't.
No.
I believe it. But, you know, it was a great way. It's an easy walk to the rink. It's a great location. You know, I'm there to do a job. And even as a visiting team, you're there to do a job. So, you know, being close like that's nice. And just try and get your rest. The food was suspect at best sometimes. But, you know, I think any NHL player knows about that Marriott and has about it. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. So along those same lines, like but before you came to the island to play for the team, what was your kind of viewpoint on the Islanders? And look, you don't have to pull any punches here.
Right.
We both grew up in a time when the Islanders were an absolute laughing stock. It's part of the reason why like we have such a passion for this team, is we want to see them you know, turn that all around, and so we can laugh at the people who laughed at us. So what was your kind of point of view of the Islanders, of Islander fans, the Coliseum, all of that before Garth Snow sent you that email after he had sent one to Todd Simpson?
Yeah, you know, they growing up not far from Boston, knowing what a sports town is like, you know, I always felt bad that they couldn't put a good product on the ice in the island for the fans, because it's such a great fan base. It's such a great history there. You know, and it's always disappointing when teams can't get it together. It seems like to especially places like the island where you have such a great fan base. You know, it's disappointing when owners can't figure it out, or general managers can't figure it out. But you know, I always enjoyed playing there. Just the history. You know, anytime you go to places like that, there's so much history, and a lot of times the older alumni guys from the island would be, or even as a visiting team, you'd go in and you'd see those guys walking around, and it's always cool to see those guys, because you know what they did back in the early '80s and all the things they did. So, you know, I always loved going in there, just the history of it. I was a big history guy when it comes to hockey. I got to play in the Forum one time. Rookie year in Montreal, I got to play in Hartford, places like that, and it was always great going to the island. And usually, most of the time, it meant you were going to get a W, which was nice too. So.
Totally, I totally believe you. I've seen a lot of those games. Trust me, I believe you. And now, a word from our sponsors. First is always VintageIceHockey.com, where you can get t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, and more featuring over 100 classic hockey logos. Vintage Ice Hockey now carries a full line of Islanders Anxiety merch featuring our blue and orange brain logo, as well as our Al Arbor and the Island shirts. And as always, our portion of the sales go directly to the Center for Dementia Research. That is VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. They offer a Rosé, a Pinot Grigio, and a Pinot Noir that was named a Top 100 Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. All are delicious, priced at less than $15 a bottle, and available at local wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com. Please drink responsibly. But that's a perfect segue. So your rookie season, so you were drafted in the second round by the Winnipeg Jets, version 1.0 back then. And you had your rookie season was spent in Winnipeg before the team moved to Phoenix. But before that, which we'll get to in a second, you set an NHL record, or tied an NHL record in your rookie year by scoring 2 goals in 4 seconds in a game against the Edmonton Oilers.
Around for Stapleton. Overskates the puck. Ryan Marchment off the glass, kept in by Turcotte. For Drake to Quint. Quick shot, score! Just as the penalty was about to expire, 5 seconds left. The quick shot by Quint, and it is 3-1. Joaquin Gage is complaining that there was somebody in the crease. And he wants him to go upstairs. The Oilers have had a goal disallowed. This shot hits Scott Thornton out high and then deflects by Gage. Thornton's out trying to block it. It hits him. Changes direction. Now is Dallas Drake in the crease there? Dallas Drake makes the pass to start with.
Shane Doan's in front of the net.
That hits Thornton. Now Shane Doan goes through. It looks like he's outside the front of the crease on that one.
Well, I don't think we're going to get video replay on that one anyway. Second goal of the season for Deron Quint. And the Winnipeg Jets lead it 3-1.
You can see that puck fluttering as it went by Joaquin Gage. It hit Scott Thornton.
They score! Off the glass! Gage was going behind the net to trap it. And the Jets have opened up a 4-1 lead. And Quint gets his second in just a few seconds. Second of the night.
These old buildings, when goalies play in here a lot, you realize you can't take the chance. You never commit. Well, Joaquin Gage hasn't played in here. He doesn't know the Winnipeg Arena. And this shot, it's a shoot-in. But it's up off those partitions and goes by Joaquin Gage.
Talk us through this insane sequence. If I have the clip here, please go to YouTube and watch it because it is absolutely nuts. But please walk us through you doing this as a 19-year-old, which is also nuts.
Yeah, I mean, the first goal was a power play goal. And then we stayed on the ice, and I think it was Zhamnov won the face-off back. Back in the old Winnipeg Arena, you had those partitions, and I just flung it around the boards, and Joaquin Gage went behind to stop it, not knowing what those Winnipeg dashers can do, and it hit the dasher and ended up going right in. At the time, nobody really thought anything of it. We didn't grab the puck or anything. Let's get back to business. And but looking back at it, it was a lot of luck, but it happened to be in the right place at the right time, and it's one of those things that's going to be tough to be broke.
Yeah,
you don't say it's luck. You say I knew exactly what partition to hit to make that go.
The only surprising thing is it didn't happen against the Islanders.
That's also true. Yeah, that is also true. Yeah, the Coliseum boards had a whole other lives of their own, minds of their own. But when you tie a record set by somebody in the 1920s, that's a pretty insane thing, right? Like, oh my God, like what? I didn't even know they had hockey back then. But you and Nell Stewart. Two fastest goals. That's crazy. That's amazing. So again, it was your rookie season in Winnipeg, and then at the end of it, unfortunately, all of the arena problems, the ownership problems, forced the Jets to move to Phoenix. I mean, you were just 20 at the time. Like, did you have a sense of? I mean, you probably did because you were there, but like, there was a lot of heartbreak in Winnipeg. On one hand, it's sad, but on the other hand, you're moving to a brand new spot and a new market and a new team and a new way to establish yourself. Like, what were your feelings about at that time? Do you remember? Like, it was kind of probably a lot of sort of push and pull, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was, and I didn't have too much invested in Winnipeg. I'd only been there for a year. I mean, of course, I understood that the fans were disappointed, and it's always sad to see a team leave like that from one of those Canadian cities that did live and breathe hockey. But going to Phoenix, sunshine. Sold out building every night. Sure. People excited. It was a good transition, and I was too young to really understand what was going on. When it comes to leaving one place and going to another. So I was just excited to be in the nice weather because it was minus 20, minus 30 most of the time. Sure. We had to plug our cars in at night, or else they would start in the morning. It was so cold. So
oh my God.
Out of the cold was nice, and Phoenix ended up being a great spot.
Sure.
Great city, and unfortunately, as we know, they're no longer here. But it was a great place to come.
That early Phoenix team, man, like those early Coyotes teams were not only they were just like very cool, very 90s NHL. Like, what was it like playing with those guys, playing with the Kachina jersey? It's now, like you just alluded to, like it kind of has like a bit of a dark tone to it when we think about the Coyotes in those early years because of how it ended up. But like back then, the Coyotes rocked. Like they were pretty cool. Did you guys like recognize like you were becoming a little bit of like a cultural force in like the 90s NHL?
Yeah, I mean, we felt it. We had we had our big guns, Tkachuk and Roenick, leading the charge, and they were they were two guys that were known throughout the NHL. JR is very personable. He's very loved, gets a lot of attention media wise. Every city we went to, there were following guys around. So, we wanted to make a little bit of waves and try and put our name out there as a team that was going to be competitive. Unfortunately, we just never could get it together. We had some unbelievable talent. We had Craig Janney, who was great, Mike Gardner, Rick Tocchet, JR, Keith, all those guys at one time, and we just couldn't put it together. But the city got behind us, and we really felt like we were making an impact. I know the league promoted us because really well with Anaheim, because they were a warm city, and people didn't think hockey would make it. So I think the NHL really helped out too in pushing us and promoting us as a team. So that helped out a lot too.
Yeah, that was a fun team. I could probably ask you as many questions about that team as I could about the 2006, 2007 Islanders, because they were a lot of fun. And you guys at the time, the Kachina jersey was almost the exact opposite of the jersey the Islanders were wearing at that time. Like, it was cool. It was different. It had that, it had a vibe, and a different vibe. And again, hockey in the desert, at first people are like, how is that even going to work? And then as soon as they take the ice, you're like, oh, I get it now. This is really, really cool. You also played with one of my favorites from that era, and a guy that not enough people talk about as being really good, Teppo Numminen. Were you ever on a pairing with Teppo? He started getting more notoriety when he moved on to Buffalo, but he was super good back for those Phoenix teams.
Oh, he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
He never got the recognition he deserved. He was, top 5 defenseman every year. He just never, for some reason, it just wasn't flashy. Right. He just did everything really well, and he was just good. I mean, he wasn't the biggest guy in the world, but he always came out with the puck. He could make great passes. He had a good shot. He didn't have a great shot. He had a good shot. So nothing was really flashy that caught attention. But, if he had been in Detroit and for the Rangers, one of those big powerhouse, he would have got a lot more notoriety, because he was good. I mean, he was a great player, great guy to have, quiet leader, but he brought it every night, and he was awesome to just watch and learn from, and he was really good.
Yeah, I love that guy. He was great.
Yeah, he was, and he was around forever too.
Yes.
It's funny to think about your NHL career. You were in Winnipeg, they leave, you go to Phoenix. We know how that ends. You were right there with Columbus, right in the beginning of the Blue Jackets tenure. Did you feel like you were one of the ribbon cutters of the NHL? Like, a new franchise would pop up, and then Deron Quint would walk in the locker room to help bring them in. It's like all, and I mean, even the Islanders, all these teams that you were a part of, were either just brand new, or with the Islanders kind of on the precipice of things going really, really sour. I'm not sure how much you guys as a playing group understood at that time, especially where the Islanders were going, but it wasn't looking very good. And that playoff run ended up being, or that run to the playoffs ended up being a little bit of resurgence, maybe to help them tread water for a little bit. But those markets you played in, it's a very unique career. What are your thoughts on playing in Columbus, Winnipeg, just kind of the whole thing in a big picture sense?
Yeah, Columbus was awesome. I was fortunate enough, new team, the city was behind us. The owner was great. It was one of those things where we knew we weren't very good talent wise, but we were going to give it 110% every night. And, that's what we did. It was just a group of average to maybe above average players coming together and just working together. And those 2 years were just a great experience of just fun hockey, working hard, playing for the guy next to you. The city just was going crazy for us. So I was very fortunate to do that for 2 years. And that was a really great experience. Very similar to coming to Phoenix that first couple of years too.
Yeah. I didn't realize you were on those expansion Blue Jackets teams. And so diving back into that and seeing a lot of names that I hadn't thought about before was really interesting and fun. And I didn't realize you are the first Columbus Blue Jacket to score a hat trick in a game in a wild 7-6 overtime win over Florida. Another sequence that, I'm sure is probably stuck in your mind.
March 9th, 2001, a 7-6 overtime win at Florida. The highest scoring game in club history saw the Jackets overcome 2-0 and 4-2 deficits, take a 5-4 lead, and fall behind 6-5 before tying the game at 14:46 of the third and winning in 43 seconds into overtime. Deron Quint led Columbus with 3 goals and an assist, recording the first hat trick by a CBJ defenseman.
I mean, this is probably a stupid thing to ask, but like, did you have a sense during that game that like you got the hot stick right now, like you can do this, you can keep on scoring and maybe, you know, because I mean it had been such a back and forth game that, I mean, did you realize that maybe you were the one who was going to break this tie?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those nights, and I think all the guys, any guy you talk to that played any sport, you just get that feeling, and then you don't know why, you know, and it doesn't come very often, but when it does, you try and take advantage of it. So I just kept shooting away, and luckily, you know, Trevor Kidd was having a slow glove that night, so I put a few by it. But you know, just one of those things that things just go your way, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just one of those things in sports where, you know, everything falls into place, and that was one of those nights that you know, I'll remember, you know, forever, because it was great. It was, you know, we just kept rolling that night, so it was good.
Are you conscious of like firsts like that? I mean, you're etched in Blue Jackets history now forever. Like when you're on an expansion team, are you conscious of that kind of stuff? Like, gee, everything one of us does is like the first thing that this team is going to have done.
Yeah, you know what? I never thought about it, and I know most of the guys I've played with, they don't think you're just going out there to play and do your best. All that stuff is a little extra bonus, but you know, it's not what drives you to play. So I never really thought about it. I know most of the guys didn't, but you know, every time there was some, you know, some games too, I think we lost 10-2, and that was one of the biggest losses in fan history. I think we got the most goals ever at that point one year too. So, but you know, you do is exciting, and it's breaking new ground for those franchises.
And then like after a couple years later, the NHL lockout comes around, and like a lot of players, you're off to Europe to keep playing. Well, the Fat Cats kind of settle their arguments and get the league back up. When you went overseas for the first time during that lockout, did you have a feeling like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna be back in the NHL? Oh, and I also should ask, like, did players think like the NHL was going to just like go belly up? Because there was a time there where it's like, we don't really know how this ends. And I remember as a fan being like, I don't know if I'll ever watch the Islanders again. I remember their last game in the playoffs the season before and being like, man, that could be it. Like Rick DiPietro just let up an overtime winner. And I'm thinking, is this it for the Islanders, especially with their kind of economic status at the time? So did you have a feeling like you were maybe not going to be coming back?
Yeah, I mean, nobody really knew. They thought it was going to be, they knew it was going to be 1 year at that, I think around November that first year, they knew it was going to be a full season. And nobody, you know, the second year, nobody really knew. Nobody knew what was going to happen. I went over to Europe. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed not having to travel as much. My first child was born. So, you know, I got into a routine there, and I was happy, and I really kind of settled into that, playing Friday, Sunday, you know, being home every night. And for me, that was where I wanted to be. I maybe could have tried to come back. I don't know how that would have ended up, but I was content with where I was at and what I had done. So, you know, that was going to be the next chapter of my story.
Going through all this, I can see why you were content, because you won a championship that first year in Germany. You know, you came over to the Islanders and then went back to Germany and then won 2 more championships with Berlin Polar Bears of the DEL. First of all, that's one of the greatest names in hockey in the world, the Berlin Polar Bears, number 1. Obviously, you said you were comfortable there. You know, you were winning championships, playing a huge role. Looking back on your career as a whole, and there's a whole other section to go, which we'll get to in a minute. Do you consider this like sort of your greatest time as a player? Was your period in Germany?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you know, we had great teams, and you know, I was very fortunate to be a part of those. You know, and being on the back end, the defensive end of it, and putting points up, and our power play was clicking, and we were rolling. And we had great coaching, and it was fun. You know, the game was fun. And I was just happy there. I really didn't want for anything else. I mean, I used to watch the NHL games and stuff, and always wondering if I could keep playing at that level. But you can't put a price on being happy and
sure.
really enjoying what you were doing. So, I was very content staying there. After I talked with the Islanders after that short stint, they were talking a two-way contract, and I just signed a 4-year contract in Berlin and would have had to buy myself out of that. So I was just, I was hoping it was going to work out in the island for 1 or 2 more years, but, it didn't. I wasn't going to give up what I had over there. So, I ended up going back and winning championships and just really enjoying the ride.
I did not know that. So you were still under contract with Berlin when you came to play that 5-game stint with the Islanders, and they were like totally okay with it.
Yeah, so they had to release me for those games because international contracts, I guess, are binding if you want to go play for the Islanders. If you want to go play anywhere else, then
I knew it. You heard it here.
So yeah, I just signed a 4-year extension prior to coming back, and then they were totally good with it. They were totally cool about it. I totally understood. So they released me for that month and then picked right back up. But had it not been the Islanders, I probably would have been signing a 10-year NHL deal. But since everything gets blocked when you go there, so
yeah, exactly.
So during the off season, while you're playing in Europe, did you come back to the U.S. to spend your off season, or did you stay over there too?
Yeah, no, I came back. We usually, when we were winning championships, we were coming back like end of April, and then we head back in August, back to Germany. And then Russia was, they start training mid-July because they're insane about their training. But I usually come home for a couple months. But once the season started, you're pretty much locked in over there. Tough to get home, and with the time change stuff, it can really wear on you. So
sure, yeah, I can imagine.
Slay the night with best dressed Halloween costumes. From a little scary to way trendy to coordinated looks with your squad, Walmart's got you covered. Find the costumes you love right here at Walmart.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least that was the plan. Except now the Dastardly Desk Clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want your connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
Listen in. Starbucks. It's a great day for coffee.
Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up a 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food. No matter what you're craving, from 2-for-1 pizza to buy one, get one wings, Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week, all season long. Uber Eats, official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
Another perfect segue, though. So after 7 seasons in Germany, in Europe, Italy and Switzerland in there as well, you moved on to the KHL, mainly playing with Tractor. You had more success there. You set a team record for goals by a defenseman in a season with 21. You guys had a run to the finals. And then in your final season there, you were named captain. What made you try Russia after all those years in Europe? And what was it like captaining a team there?
So, it was a lot of success in Germany. We won a bunch of championships. And, the next step was to see if I could still play at that level. Russia was obviously a step up from pretty much anywhere else, minus the NHL. And, I'd had offers the year before. Teams tried to buy me out of my contract. And I still had 2 more years left on my deal, but decided it was time to give it a try and see if I could still play and compete at that level. So I bought myself we got bought out of my contract in Berlin and went over to a city called Nizhnekamsk my first year. And so, it started there. And, the Russian style of play, it's all offense. It's powerful. It's a lot of skill. And it was a lot of fun playing. After 1 year there, I went to Chelyabinsk and got to play with Kuznetsov and Natushkin and guys like that. So, it was a great experience all around.
Did you pick up any of the languages? Like how many languages would you say you can have like a short conversation in now?
So as far as German goes, everybody speaks English in Germany. So I was very, but in Russia, no, not very many people speak English. So you had to learn the language. You had to learn how to speak and understand. So that was a little bit of a culture shock, but you have to do it or else you're not going to survive. So I wouldn't say it's easy to pick it up when that's all there is, but you're kind of forced to. So you learn it pretty quick. And so that's something you need to survive. So I had to learn. And I can get by and survive and teach it to anybody else.
Yeah, I can imagine. But after a number of years there, I guess you pick it up. And like you said, team was really good. You guys went to the finals again and had a really, really good team. But then it was back to one more season in the DEL, this time with Munich. And guess what? Another championship. This one, by the way, we have to shout out a guy who we also need to do an episode on this show of. Keith Aucoin was one of your teammates on that, another favorite of ours from an unlikely Islanders playoff team. So what made you go back to the DEL for you were 41 at the time? So, this is your last year of pro hockey. What made you go back to the DEL just one more time? And what then, after winning another championship, was that when you were like, okay, I think it's time that I step off the train?
Yeah. So my coach from Berlin ended up in Munich. We had talked in December. I knew it was going to be my last year in Russia. I just gotten to that point where I felt like I couldn't compete anymore at the level that I wanted to. But I wanted to have one more year, get a chance to win one more championship. And Berlin had won it the year before. Donnie Jackson, their coach, and I had talked. And, so I told him I wanted to come. He's like, absolutely. So that was going to be the last hurrah. And, fortunately enough, we ended up winning another championship.
Yeah.
All right. So let's now go back to the Islanders and your time on the island. One thing that just talking to you is pretty impressive, because a lot of times when you hear NHL players get interviewed, even current ones, like you ask them about a specific game, they don't remember a goal or whatever. It's just, kind of all a blur, but you've been dropping, Alexei Zhamnov's name, winning a faceoff, all sorts of stuff. So I want to ask you if you remember that game against the Devils that you guys end up going to the playoffs with. Do you remember who scored the two Islanders goals that night?
I think Kazi got one.
Well, he got a shootout.
The shootout.
Yeah. And he's one of our favorites too.
Yep.
And we love Viktor Kozlov. That season was unbelievable that season. But it was Richard Park scored twice, and I believe you were on the ice for one of them.
Yeah.
Because that's a game that I've watched on YouTube. I'm not kidding. Dan can attest to it, because I'll just send random screenshot from it and just be like cracking up thinking about this game and thinking about, like you mentioned about the Brodeur not playing that night. You wouldn't believe it, but TSN before the game did a panel, and they asked if it was against the spirit of the game that the Devils were sitting Martin Brodeur that night, knowing that the Maple Leafs their playoff hopes depended on the Devils winning, and they were all up in arms that he wasn't playing that night, even though it was a meaningless game for the Devils. But I've watched that game so many times, and I just want to know, like, is it something that you've revisited? I would hope not as much as I have, but in your post playing career, do you sometimes just stop and think about that game or that run and that team? Do you still have any connections left with any of the players on that roster?
Yeah, so it's one of those moments where you're sitting. I remember actually standing on the bench. We weren't sitting for the shootout, but just remembering that this is, if we win this, it's ours, and just that feeling of everything just going right, and just when it was all over, just how excited and happy and just everybody was, and it was just everybody contributed, everybody got credit. It wasn't one guy doing everything, and it was a great atmosphere, and I've definitely thought about it before, and I can remember standing right next to Pody and on the bench and watching the shootout. Just it was crazy.
I know it was only 5 games, but we should ask too. What are your thoughts on Ted Nolan? I mean, you come in. I mean, you've spent a whole season playing in one place. You show up 5 games later. This guy is like your coach now. What was it like joining that group with him? And just that short period of time he was your coach.
I'd heard great things about him when he was in Buffalo, that he's a player's coach, and the guys loved him, and that carried right over. And he just was very personable. He told you, this is what I need from you. Give me everything you got, and we're going to be good. And he's just a very personable player's coach, and he had a lot of respect from me even prior to going there, and just the way he handled them, and they handled the team. And it all starts with your coach, and right. He's the guy that drives the ship. So. If the guys don't buy in and they don't believe in you, then you're not going to be successful. So I think it shows you what kind of coach he was that we were able to pull that together at the end there.
And do you remember what the message was after? I mean, that game, you were indoctrinated into the Islanders. In 5 games, you got the full Islanders experience with the Islanders blowing a 2-0 lead with less than 3 minutes left, and then John Madden scoring with no time left on the clock. For that game. What was it like on the bench when that went in, when John Madden scored that goal to send it to overtime?
Yeah, I think we were still confident. I think that we knew that we had everything we needed, and we just brushed it off and moved forward. And that would have buried a lot of teams. I think that would have sent a lot of teams into a downward spiral. But with the team we had, and just upbeat and positive, and hey, we were playing on borrowed time as it was. So, everything from here on was a bonus. So when you're playing with house money, you can afford to do a lot of things. And
it was just crazy. Just the fact that all these teams were still fighting for this one playoff spot with a week to go. And it was every time somebody won or lost, it was up and down. Yeah.
I've told the story before on our other podcast that night, the Saturday night, you guys needed the Maple Leafs to beat the Canadiens in regulation. And there was like a situation where the Canadiens might have to pull their goalie even though the game was tied, and it was this insane kind of situation where Canada kind of stopped in its tracks to watch Toronto versus Montreal, huge rivalry game. I bought the full season worth of NHL Center Ice at the time it was called. For that game, I had to pay my dad $149.99 just to watch. I paid as much money as people in the last seat and right. I guess whatever, I think it was in Toronto that night, to watch that game. And I've always wanted to know this. Did you guys watch that game knowing like we need the Maple Leafs to win? Did you get together to watch it, or did you just be like, we're not even going to go near it and we're just going to wake up tomorrow and take care of our own business?
Yeah, a bunch of us got together to watch it. I mean, because you're not human if you don't. I mean, right. We're all human, and we're as much as somebody says they don't want to. We all watched. Everybody watched. We knew what we had to do, and it was up to us. And we made our breaks. I think Toronto came in after that. I think it was after Ottawa, right? Was Toronto?
Yes,
I think so.
Yeah.
So they had their chance, and we beat them at home. So
yes,
we were watching, and we knew what we had to do, and it's a little extra incentive when it's yours for the taking if you handle business. So we were fortunate worked out the way it did.
Yeah, and you also got to play the Rangers, which was nice, and that was a game that the Rangers could have eliminated us, and that was, I believe, the first Dublowitz poke check in a shootout. So it was like foreshadowing, because I think that game, I can't remember, it was like Michael Nylander or Straka or someone that he poke checked in that game too to win it. Do you have any recollection of that game? What it was like to play in that Islander Ranger rivalry?
Yeah, that was awesome. And I just remember coming down the left wing, and I took a shot, and I just remember thinking, oh God, that Lundqvist, he's a big boy. Like, I mean, he covered the whole, I'm like, you can't see, is there a net behind this guy? Like he was a huge man in there. And I'd never played against him before. Just he got in after I got out. So, just that rivalry. And you know what if you play in the NHL, or even if you play hockey at all, the rivalry that's in New York. So, it's going to be exciting. The place is going to be rocking, and we got the big win.
Yeah. You just described our lives for, what was it, 18 years, 20 years? Oh my God, this guy. Is there they're going to score a goal? Although the Islanders have a pretty good record against him, which is actually kind of ironic considering all the other teams he blanked in his career. So it sounds like you're still a fan. Like, are you still a hockey fan? Do you still watch just on your own in your off time?
Yeah, I catch games once in a while when they're on. I played with some of the guys I played with in Russia are still in the league. Coming up, the goalie in New York for the Rangers, I played with him in Moscow for a year.
Oh, Igor Shesterkin, really? Oh, wow.
He was 17 at the time.
Wow.
He was our third goalie, and I'm shocked at how well he's done, only because he struggled, when he was with us, but he's put the work in, and he's been lights out. The last couple of years, he's come a long way. And then Kuznetsov just went back to the KHL. Kuzi and I played together for 4 years in Chelyabinsk, and so I still enjoy the game. I enjoy watching it. Sometimes your mind tells you can still play, but and I remember I'm 48 years old. Those days are past me, but yeah, I still enjoy watching. I think the game's changed a lot, as you guys probably know. I'm a big fan of the '90s game with the enforcers and the players policing themselves, but it's still a great game to watch even now.
At 48, you have to start a podcast. That's that's the rules.
Yeah.
So, and now, it's funny, you have a unique perspective on sort of Phoenix hockey as a former Coyote, and now as a citizen of Phoenix. The brand is still out there. The NHL clearly is going to want to bring a new Coyotes team back. Do you think there'll be excitement for a new version of the Coyotes to set foot in Phoenix one day?
I think so. It's going to have to be in the right situation. They're going to have to get a building. You got to get the right ownership that does things the right way. They can bring the excitement back. You look at a place like Vegas and how well they've done, and it's a very similar city. Going to take the right people, the right building, and this is a great place for hockey. So hopefully they can figure something out and get it back here in the desert. And it can be a great tradition, and the people are here for it. Again, it's a weird city. It's kind of like half the city wants hockey, half doesn't. And so you kind of get it in the right spot. But the other tough thing that, growing up on the East Coast, and you guys will understand this, most people here are transplants from other cities. So when Islanders come into town, there's more Islanders jerseys than Coyotes jerseys.
Right.
Rangers come into town, there's more Rangers jerseys than Coyotes jerseys. But now we're starting to see more, Phoenix natives in the area, which I think will help a lot and really boost the fan base. So hopefully, I think they'll get it done. I think the NHL will really push for it. Just getting I think Shane Doan and should get some people together, because he's the man here. He'd be a guy that could make it successful here again.
Yep.
Well, as we wrap this up, I don't know if you've noticed or if the team's reached out to you, but for years and years, we've always said like we wanted the Islanders to kind of embrace teams like the 2006, 2007 team, the 2001, 2002 team, by quote unquote like normal fans' perspective. It wasn't a successful year, right? You didn't win a Stanley Cup, you didn't go to a Stanley Cup or Eastern Conference final, but for me, like that was one of the best seasons I've ever seen, because I went, I was born in 1990. I never saw the Islanders make the playoffs really until 2002. Then they had some decent years, and then the lockout comes, and that run actually was literally, just by definition, like the second best season that I saw until 2013. And we always wanted the Islanders to kind of embrace those teams, but it felt like with the old regime, they didn't understand just like how connected us, the fan base, were to teams like the 2006 and 7 team, and how much like you guys meant to us, especially fans that were coming of age at that time. Has the team reached out to you at all? I know they do a lot more with alumni night. They have guys who come in, like there was an alumni at last alumni night last season that never even played for the team. He was just an Islander draft pick. So have you heard from the Islanders about coming back at all?
Yeah, they send emails out every once in a while. I know they do a couple games. They bring everybody in for a weekend, or and they do a lot of stuff. But for that team in particular, I think it's a great idea. I think it'd be cool if they got everybody together and just, just for the fans and for like you said, your generation to see everybody and just kind of just salute, the success that they had. I mean, it was exciting and being a part of it was awesome. And I think that'd be a great idea and something that would be a lot of fun and everybody would enjoy.
Well, we hope to see you at UBS Arena for an alumni night one of these days. But you got a job. You're working. You're not retired on the golf course like a lot of these guys. So if you haven't, Ray Ferraro is another one who he keeps saying he'll go there, but he's a busy guy. It's tough to find some time for him. Just a couple more for you, and we can't thank you enough, Deron, for coming on with us. This has been so great, and it's been such a thrill to have an actual Islander on to talk to you about this team and this season that we talk about so much on this show, on our other show. It's such a watershed moment for fans. Where do you think your Islanders tenure, again, all 5 games of it, fits into the rest of your career? Again, you had long spells in certain teams, you've won championships all over the place, and then there's this like one sort of strange island, pun intended, where you were like, do you think that there's like some sort of connective tissue there between the Islanders and the rest of your career in hockey all over the world?
So, absolutely. I think about it all the time, and that it's, I went into those 5 games just taking it all in. My NHL career before that kind of flew by. You never think it's going to end, so you don't really, take it in. You take it for granted. And then being away, and then getting asked to come back, my attitude was, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to take it all in and just enjoy every minute of it. And that's what I did. It was the most fun 5 games I had in my NHL career, just because I wasn't taking it for granted and I was enjoying it and it was awesome. And, I'll never forget those games and that time. So it was, it was very memorable for me. And as far as my career goes, NHL wise, that was the most memorable. Just like I said, because it was, I wasn't taking it for granted. I was sitting back. I was taking it all in. I was coming to the rink and just enjoying the game, enjoying the atmosphere, enjoying my teammates. And not that I didn't before. It was just a whole different perspective. After you lose something or something gets taken away from you, right, that's when you realize, what you had. So that kind of gave me a chance to get back and do that. So it was great, and I'll remember it forever. And it was short, but it was enjoyable.
Great, I'm glad to hear that. You said you love telling stories. It's clearly obvious that you do, and we hope you have had a lot of fun with us tonight.
Yeah, it's been awesome, and anytime you guys want to come out here, we're ride-alongs. We're hiring if you guys want to come out and be a police officer at Phoenix PD. We're hiring out here, so great incentive bonus, like a signing bonus. I got one when I was a rookie. You guys get one too if you want to come out here.
For a new job, head on over to Phoenix.
My brother's a cop in the city, and I always joke with him that I would be the world's worst police officer.
Become a member at patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety for ad-free episodes and bonus content, or join for free to get announcements and our weekly release calendar. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible.com, iHeartRadio, YouTube Music, or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a review where you can. Our theme song is Knuckles by Bjorn Falk. Listen to more of Bjorn's music at Bandcamp and on Spotify. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day for your most up-to-date Islanders news and discussion. Islanders Anxiety podcasts are part of the Fans First Sports Network. Learn more at fansfirstsports.com. Shop VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. Mike, do you have any final question here for Officer Quint?
Yep, and this is a question that Dan and I always talk about with whoever our guest is on the show about a particular player, because the Islanders, especially in this era, it was very transient, like players coming and going. We sometimes refer to these teams as like mercenary teams in a good way. And Mike Sillinger, of course, like Brendan Witt, like these guys were not, they weren't Islanders. They kind of just landed here and in maybe the most unique circumstances of any Islander ever. Like you end up here with a wink to Todd Simpson. Have you ever thought about what your impact was on the Islanders, and that there could possibly be 2 guys and now yourself, sitting around on a Tuesday night here, talking about Deron Quint's Islander career and just how much this run, the role you played in it, the story behind the role that you played in it, how much it meant to a fan base. And do you now have like a new appreciation for just like, in 5 games, you still made this crazy impact, and it's not just the way you played on the ice, but also the story that landed you on the island.
Yeah, I mean, I never really thought it was, I was a small, very, very small piece to a big puzzle, and I never understood the magnitude of it, because I wasn't there that long. But, talking to you guys, I can see, and being a sports fan myself, I mean, if the Patriots did the same thing and had a guy for 2 games, I'd feel the same way you guys did.
There you go.
It's the sports in us, and the love for our teams, and anybody who contributes to that, you appreciate, and I appreciate you guys doing this with me, and it definitely gives me a new appreciation for it. I already appreciated the 5 games and the island, and the great memories, and now it's just another feather in my cap.
It's great.
We appreciate you. Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming on with us, taking some of your time out. We can't thank you enough. We're so glad that you were our first ever actual Islander, and we couldn't have asked for a better guest and a better story. So thank you very much.
Mike.
Yes.
Shoot me an email with your address.
Sure.
I'll send you guys. I got something in my closet that I think would be much better in your hands than in my hands.
Come on. I of course, I'll definitely take it, but think long and hard before you give up some Islander heirloom.
I think it's, you guys will, maybe you'll put it on the show one day, but yeah.
Absolutely. Trust me. We'll talk about it ad nauseum. We talk about this team nonstop. Like you have no idea how, and it's not just us, like the entire fan base, like especially people around our age, like just loved you guys.
Remember where they were, remember games, remember the whole thing. Yeah. So
all right, yeah, I'll email you my address. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Guys, talk to you later.
Thank you, Deron. Take care.
Bye.
Mike, where can everybody find you on Twitter?
The Big Lebowski with 2 E's, and maybe one day as a Phoenix PD officer, because I might take up Deron Quint on that often. Nice city to live in down there in Phoenix, huh?
Look out, Phoenix. Dirty Leboff coming in. Sudden impact. But yeah, follow Mike at the Big Lebowski, Read and Listen to his work at Action Network. We'll be back in another couple of weeks with a brand new Weird Islander and a brand new great guest. Until then, keep the Islanders weird and buckle your seatbelts for season 4, because we have some great episodes coming up. You're not going to want to miss them. Take care. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.